So here are the details of who is going to be in the tribulation and who is currently part of the restrainer. So the restrainer is made up of these people here. Can you see the light green? The light green, that area there. These are the ones that are making up part of the restrainer. But they are also, the other remaining bits are going to be those who will be going into the great tribulation as well, who will then become followers of Jesus Christ. And as you can see, they're a very small number of people compared to the dark green lines, which will be all of those that will enter and become part of Lucifer's prototype society. The 500 million humans will come out of this group here. So I would probably say if you took a line and drew that down perpendicularly to where Kenya is at 6.2%, and you drew that line all the way to the top, that's about 500 million people. That's the model prototype society that Lucifer wants for himself, to prove the point to Jesus Christ that he was able to get all of humanity to fall for his deception because humanity turned away from God. They weren't reading their Bibles. They weren't reading the Word. They were not in the Word. They were not worshiping God. They had turned to pagan deities. And for that reason, he will claim victory. But of course he won't have victory, because what he has done from a legal perspective is that he has actually, and we've proved this in previous programs, he has gone in and taken from the kingdom in Leviticus, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Kings and Judges. We see the transgression that this enemy has committed upon God's holy law. If you go to our program, which is called Good Hope for those who may have taken the mark, you'll see that it goes very deeply into an understanding of the legal process of unjust enrichment. Unjust enrichment is a term at law that states that when someone steals something, they are legally obliged to give it back. In fact, they must return the party that they have violated to a place of estoppel. And if you don't know what estoppel is that the judge rules, or jury rules, in favor of the claimant against the defendant, who states that the thing that has been stolen must be returned, and that the injured party must be returned back to where they were prior the injury occurring. So in essence, this beautiful and wonderful, merciful Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh will return, I believe very strongly, that he will return a vast number of the lost human beings, if not all, back to the kingdom. But it may take 1,000 years. I don't think they'll see the 1,000 years millennial reign. And in fact, I'm seeing it pretty much as the sequel, right? This life has been movie number 1, and what we are going to experience is movie number 2. Movie number 2 is the millennial kingdom. And this is where we will see all the summary court actions take place, where humanity, those who are now in heaven, have come back from heaven, the saints, along with Jesus Christ, to destroy the 200 million man strong army that are suffering from myocarditis because they would have been infused with the viper venom. These people, in essence, the saints that have come in tow with Jesus Christ, they will be the ones who will act as attorneys in the courtrooms of the territory between Jerusalem and Elam, and they will do what they can legally by evoking the laws in Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Kings, Judges, and also Samuel 1 and 2. They will evoke those laws to bring about the restitution of all things lost to humanity during the dispensations leading up to the Great Tribulation and inclusive of the Great Tribulation. So we're going to see, in essence, a massive replenishment of souls back into the kingdom of heaven. And I think most people who have got a grounding in law have started to work this out. There are quite a few people that I speak to. I've got a friend of mine who, he and I go cycling together, and he's a lawyer, a practicing lawyer. And on a regular basis, we talk about this, and it comes up a lot. In fact, when I introduced the idea to him, he basically instantly said, this was last year, around about April last year, he instantly said, you're absolutely right. This enemy will have to return everything that he has stolen throughout history. None of his principalities, none of the demons working under his dominionship will be allowed to keep any of their estate. Like nothing that they are accruing right now is legally theirs. It's all unjust enrichment. So where Israel stands at the moment, and we are watching Israel more than any other country because it is God's time clock, and it's sitting at 64.97% fully abominated. We really, in terms of simplicity, without going deeply into detail related to all the other countries, and there's much to be said about all these other countries too, but just looking at Israel, we can see that Israel will hit 66.66% very, very, very soon. I don't know if you know this, but there are 6,666 verses in the Quran. And it's also the 6666 numbers of the HR order in the United States that's governing the new what's going to be happening when they pull people aside and take them away from their homes. So that's the HR order. The other thing too is that the 36 patents referring to the abomination all contain the 666 numbers. If you go onto Patent Scope or WIPO, which is the World Intellectual Property Organization's websites, and you pull up all of these abomination dash cryptocurrency dash biometric, you'll see that they all have the 666 numbers, or the 666 numbers, and or inclusive of the luciferase name, and or inclusive of the reference to snake. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of information relating to this right now that's coming up. And as I said, it's off this main platform. Go to the other platforms and you will get all of this information. So if you're looking on the main channel that everybody knows, you won't find necessarily all the really meaty information related to this. And as we look at Israel with its 64.97%, we know that we are very, very close to the rapture. The rapture is very, very imminent, extremely imminent. As we continue to watch Chesvan 17, which is October 24th, all the way to October 31st, we're still on high watch right up until about the 9th of November, because that will take us to the end of the 150-day cycle related to the sign of the prophet Jonah. So we are watching. We do know that the rapture is imminent, that it's about to come upon humanity. It will literally trigger the Great Tribulation, and the sleeping church will remain behind. The bride will be pulled out as the remnant to go to heaven. And this is why you need to be in the Word. You need to be awake and not in a denominational category. I was talking to some people that are from a particular denomination today, and they just want to argue. They just want to attack the whole rapture doctrine, and they don't want to believe that it's all about the blood. I keep talking to them and saying, if you still think you have to keep the Sabbath, or you still think you have to keep a law, you are foundationally believing in a works-based salvation, which is not right. Nothing that Jesus Christ did on the cross is defective. It's absolute perfection. So yeah, brothers and sisters, I really do believe that we are very, very close to the rapture. And it's very exciting. It's been very difficult. It's been very, very difficult on so many fronts. But I'm happy to say that I really, really do believe, as we see more and more of these so-called non-legal mandates, they're not legal. No mandate is legal. And anything that's legal is not a mandate. Mandates are underwritten by governors rubber stamping. They're not laws. No matter how much they want to jump up and down and say that they're going to fine you, $10, $20, $30,000 for not taking this thing. They can't do that. Under the Nuremberg Code, they can't do that either. Under any human rights law, they cannot do that. Yes, they'll threaten. My dad always says this. They'll try, but it's a whole nother ball game to actually get it to happen. But they'll try, but they're not going to really get it to happen. And this is one of the reasons why there are overcomers in the Great Tribulation. And also there are martyrs, people that will not do it. They just will not do it, right? So Satan will try to push and push and push and push. But in essence, he's going to push people, and he's going to raise new sons and daughters to glory in the Great Tribulation period. The other thing too, of course, that he doesn't realize, as I keep saying this, is that everything he is doing under this forceful duress, under forceful, an advocacy of forcefulness, is illegal, right? Everybody knows this. I'm stunned that someone so legalistic as Lucifer doesn't understand that. For instance, false imprisonment. If you understand law, false imprisonment means that you lock somebody in a room against their will, right? This is what he's been doing with the lockdowns. Everything that he has done, by preventing people from earning their livelihood. Livelihood is sacred. We know this from the Bible. The fact that he has stopped people from earning their livelihood, from actually having mobility, these are all illegal things to do, right? And they are counter to the natural law, to the natural human law of mobility, the natural human law of being able to earn a living for their families, their kids. This is one of the reasons why governments are compelled to pay some form of stimulus check, right? Stimuli checks. They have to. They have no choice. But anyway, I do believe the comeuppance of all of this is that he is going to have to give it all back. All of it. His demonic principalities will have to give it all back. I do believe that very, very strongly. I do know that God has this all pre-figured out since the beginning of creation. He knew this was going to happen. He allowed it to happen for his glory, so that he can not only be the creator, but also the savior, but also the redeemer, but also the rescuer, but also the ultimate reconciler and the ultimate superhero of the universe. I mean, God is going to show his glory in so many ways. And even just from a legal perspective, what the enemy is doing is it's amateurish. He is completely amateurish in his approach. He has absolutely no clue how to go about this. He is literally stampeding over people's rights, and he is pushing his luck, and there's going to be an estoppel. If the injured parties have to be returned back to the place where they were in space and time before the start of the injury, according to Leviticus, the enemy will have to give it back 7 times 70. 7 times 7. He has to give it all back. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Brothers and sisters, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being a part of our ministry. And we'll come back with some super information about the rapture very, very soon.